The first guest artist and writer, storyteller, is from the art department. Let's all give a huge round of applause for the amazing Miss McLean. And going up against Miss McLean in this great contest, from the social studies department, the incredible Mr. Sutic. All right, so is there happen to be a chicken over there by any chance?
A chicken?
Mr. Tooley, oh, there it is, there it is. There we go. So the way we decide who reads the story first is we flip the chicken. This is a very famous LHS Writers Week tradition. So we're going to let Miss McLean, we're going to call heads, the chicken lands face up, or tails face down. What is your call?
Face down.
Face down, tails. All right, here we go. Flipping the chicken. There we go, good call. Miss McLean, it is your choice if you'd like to read first or defer to Mr. Sutic.
I would love to go first.
All right, excellent. I'm going to bring you the mic. So if you want to stay there you go. Or would you prefer the podium?
That works, yeah. All right, hi everyone. My name is Miss McLean, and while many of you guys know that I teach art here, something you might not know is that I actually attended LHS as a student. So when asked to prepare a story this year, I knew immediately which one I had to tell. So this is a story about my senior prom. So senior prom at LHS in 2019, do the math right now, was at the Shed Aquarium in Chicago, which felt incredibly fancy to high school me, because I know, right? Like, what's fancier than fish? And I was convinced that this was going to be the most glamorous night of my life. At the time, I had been dating my boyfriend for about a year, so everything about the night felt very serious, very important, and he was, as my students say, my huz. While I am I using it right? While I was getting ready that Saturday, I texted him a picture of myself getting ready and told him that our group was meeting at 6 o'clock later that night before we boarded the buses. And I got no response. And at first I didn't think much of it. I thought maybe he was getting ready, maybe he was driving. But as more time passed, I kept checking my phone. And you know that feeling where you're refreshing your messages every like 30 seconds, like it's your full-time job? Yep, that was me. And eventually it becomes time to board the buses, and he is nowhere in sight. No message, no call, nothing. This is really embarrassing to admit, but I was being stood up, and I accepted that in that moment. But luckily, I had really great friends in high school who were trying their best to distract me, and I said, you know what? I'm here, I feel good, I look good, I'm wearing this really expensive dress I'll never wear again in my life. I'm gonna try and have fun. So we get to the aquarium. My friends insisted that we go straight to the professional photographer, and I remember thinking, great, this is exactly what I need right now. I need high-resolution documentation of whatever this night is becoming. So everyone in my friend group is doing like the classic prom pose where the guy stands behind you with his arms around you, except me. I am the only one without a date. So Willie the Wildcat steps in for my photo, which means somewhere buried in someone's Snapchat memories, there is a photo of me at senior prom being romantically embraced by a wildcat. Later in the night, my friends and I formed one of those big dance circles that like slowly grows until it encapsulates the entire senior class. And Willie the Wildcat jumps into the middle, and whoever is inside this suit has incredible moves. Like, the crowd is losing it, he's dancing, he's spinning, he's putting on a full show, we're eating it up. And then he scans the crowd and he looks directly at me and points and then does like a come here. Now I need to explain something, you guys. I was not very popular in high school. I was voted most artistic, which is a polite way of saying that I spent most of my time hiding in the art classrooms, like many of my students do now. So the idea of dancing in a giant circle at prom nightmare. So I instantly disappeared into the back of the crowd, and the night ended with me a little tearful in the aquarium bathroom, angrily texting my boyfriend and telling him we were done. This is humiliating. I skipped all the after prom festivities. I went home. I'm in my bed. I'm doing the crying, eating ice cream Netflix combo. And my mom knocks on my door after a little while, and she tells me that there's someone at the door. And I was like, absolutely not. I look awful right now. But she insisted. So I went downstairs. Standing at the door was Willie the Wildcat, holding a bouquet of flowers. This sounds made up, but guys, oh my God. I almost cried harder because at the time, I thought my friends had convinced this guy, like paid him off or something, to put the suit back on and show up with flowers just to make me feel better about the whole debacle. So I was like, Willie, can I call you William? I'm so sorry that my friends made you do this. Thank you for the flowers. And then he took the head off, and it was my boyfriend. He explained that he had been the mascot, without me knowing, for the entire past year. Prom was like the last event that he had to do, and apparently there was like a whole mascot honor code where he couldn't reveal his identity to anyone, even his girlfriend. So prom was the final event. He could finally tell me, I accepted the flowers, I forgave him, and at 17, I probably would have called this the ultimate rom-com moment, but now I just think it's the weirdest story I have from LHS, and probably the only prom photo where my date had claws. Thank you.
Yes, I was principal during that time, so I'm not going to reveal what I know about that situation because that may give some inside kind of tips, but I will give the audience one thing. I'm not saying the story is true, but the mascot code is true. That is definitely true. So that's one piece of information I'll give you. And now, keep your questions for Miss McLean, but we're going to go to Mr. Sutic's story. Here we go.
All right, everybody. Now, before I indulge you in this story, I do want to acknowledge today's date. It's Friday 13th. And even though I'm not particularly superstitious, the fact that I'm delivering this tale today left me feeling a little spooked myself. I was, after all, raised by a highly superstitious mother who is always quick to remind me that, quote, the devil is always listening. I only hope that the story I'm about to tell you doesn't result in me or any of you experiencing the same fate. So let's rewind. Let's rewind to March 2016, almost exactly 10 years to the date, when I was a junior at Miami University. The spring semester was absolutely ripping and roaring, and we had arrived at the coveted spring break. Time out. This is not about to be the spring break story you want to hear. Sorry. So, me and 4 of my close friends, yes, my fraternity brothers, were set to drive down to Gulf Shores, Alabama. Our mission, escape the relentless grayness of southeastern Ohio and spend a week in a beach house. We packed into my buddy Chase's car, the 5 of us, and enough questionable snacks to choke a small animal, drove through the night, and we arrived at Gulf Shores at the perfect time. Giddy with excitement, further emboldened when that salty sea breeze, that intoxicating cocktail of fish, sunscreen, and just pure vacation, baby, that was hitting our nostrils. We agreed to hit the beach immediately after checking into our beach house, and I was more than game. I threw my bag into a random room, pulled on my trunks, and headed downstairs. Now, here is a crucial detail for this story. I love the ocean. I would never live by it, but I love swimming in it. I love the sting of the salt water. I love the rhythm of the tides and the waves. My love for the sea, however, is central to where this story goes. And this story, ladies and gentlemen, is about to take a turn. Towel in hand, newly purchased and completely overpriced sunglasses on, and brimming with eagerness, I was ready. And the fellas were ready as well. We began our stroll down the streets to the beach, but the version that would ultimately return from that stroll, the version of me, would be very, very different. Now, I like to pause here and I like to acknowledge that what I do next is something that I am willing to bet people in this crowd have done, and maybe after this story will continue to do. I'm not sure if this helps me stay grounded in the idea that crazy things happen to normal people all the time, or maybe this is just a way that I'm trying to glean a lesson from this experience. Either way, what I did next was, well, what anyone would do when their feet touch that sun-kissed warm sand. Drop everything, and bolt for the water. Now, there's no testing the water when you get into the ocean, right? You could waste your time gently wading in, or you could elect my strategy of just running in and taking a big old plunge, right? Immersing yourself in the ever-expanding depths. Well, as I'm running to the water, my mind is racing. Right? How cold is the water going to be? I hope there's no shells or rocks. I'm thinking, wow, I've never swam in the Alabama Ocean before. I drove my legs through the first waves as I was knee-deep. Then I was waist-deep, right? And then I leapt forward, hands out, creating a pointed edge, and BAM! That's the story. Thanks. No, I'm just kidding. My dive was rather rudely interrupted by a wall of submerged sand, a sandbar that had formed but hadn't broken the surface of the water. Now, I felt a sensation immediately upon impact, and that sensation was kind of like a funny bone, right? When you hit your funny bone, except the sensation that I was feeling in that moment was as if both of my funny bones were suddenly slammed with a sledgehammer, right? This radiating pain shot up both of my arms and into my shoulders and my neck, and it just wouldn't quit. My legs were moving, which I would later realize was my first miracle. I lifted myself up out of the water, and feeling the discomfort spreading through my arms and shoulders and neck like wildfire, I realized I couldn't feel my hands. I walked back to the shore where my buddies were just about to take their plunges themselves. And they were looking at me rather perplexed. They said, that didn't look pretty. Are you okay? And I shrugged it off, literally. Yeah, it just kind of snuck up on me. You guys be careful, watch out. I got back to the shore and went to sit down, and then I went to lay down, right, to relieve this shooting pain. I still didn't realize or understand what had happened, but I knew that my legs were working and that I was conscious. I must have tweaked something, I thought, right? Nothing too serious. Upon laying down, staring at the blue skies, seeing what the seagulls do, I came to another frightening realization. I couldn't get back up. That's when the worry started. What did I just do? How severe was this? Hours into our week-long spring break. I kept things casual. I'll just shake it off. I'll wait it out. It's fine. Some time went by laying on the sand, and nothing had changed. I asked my friends to gently grab me by the back of my head and the shoulders and help me up, since I knew once I can get up, I could still walk. As I got to my feet, the discomfort was still intensely present. I decided I needed to go back to the beach house. I lay down, figure out what was happening. As me and my friend Jamie walked back, I started wondering, is this something that's going to change the course of our trip? Spoiler alert, it did. I lay down on the floor of the bedroom, instinctively knowing that the soft, comforting mattress was not what I needed. I needed something hard, something flat, to keep my neck and shoulders aligned, which I found, from laying on the sand, was actually providing some relief. After a few hours casually minding my own, staring at the ceiling while my friends started their vacation, I knew it was time to make a call. I told my buddies, I think there's something seriously wrong. I'm scared, and I think I need to go to the hospital. What we didn't know was that Gulf Shores was nowhere near a proper hospital. When we finally mustered up the courage to call an ambulance, we learned that it would be at least an hour before paramedics could arrive. After calling the ambulance, I knew what I needed to do next, and it did not fill me with any sort of joy or relief. I needed to call my mom. I didn't have the guts to answer the phone, but just to dial her number, and I gave the phone to Jamie. Because you know, moms, they have that instinct, right? They know there's something immediately wrong, and I couldn't face it. I think Jamie made things worse. Upon answering, he cheerfully announced, "Hey, Mrs. Sutic, this is Danilo's friend, Jamie. I hope you're doing well. We think Danilo got hurt, and we called an ambulance. Do you want to talk to him?" Thanks for buttering her up, Jamie. I spoke to my mom, and tears immediately started forming in my eyes. I told her what had happened. I assured her I was fine, doing okay, and would keep her notified. I didn't know I was okay. I didn't know what was happening, but you gotta get through that. An hour went by, paramedics arrived, and upon arriving and hearing the description of my symptoms and what had happened, diving into a sandbar, they began looking at me like I was some sort of porcelain doll. And I'll never forget that look. The look that conveyed a mix of profound worry and surprise. They kept asking me, "How did you get out of the water? How did you get up these stairs?" All of the things that I had done casually or more or less normally were suddenly seen as phenomenal or unbelievable. Now, arriving to the hospital in Pensacola, Florida, I was rushed into a CT scan as well as an MRI. Then I was placed in one of those lonely holding rooms. Just me on the hospital bed with my buddies Jamie and Morgan sitting beside me. After what felt like hours, a trauma surgeon walked in. Bless you. We walked down, he looked down at me and he uttered the words, "It's a miracle that you got out of the water." He told Jamie and Morgan to leave, and tears were starting to form in my eyes yet again. He walked closer to me and he presented me with the CT scan. He told me, "Take a look at this for me and let me know when you see something unordinary." Sure enough, the profile image of my head and neck was normal until you counted down from the base of my skull. The sixth vertebrae, the C6, was promptly cracked in half. And the back half of the anterior body was just somehow resting on my spinal cord. The surgeon explained that the pressure of my dive resulted in the breaking of my neck. And although I was terrified, I was still rather immobilized. He continued to explain that although my neck was broken, only small slivers of bone had penetrated my spinal cord, and that it was not completely severed. Hence, still being able to control my legs and breathe. "Here's what's going to happen next," the surgeon quipped. "We're going to take you into an emergency surgery early tomorrow morning, and we're going to replace your C6, and we're going to fuse your neck, C7, C6, and C5. It's all going to become one." Not knowing what any of that meant, I said, "Whatever you got to do, Doc. But am I going to get my arms back?" The doctor paused. He looked at me. He said, "Well, you still have access to your legs, which is a very, very good thing. But as far as your arms, we really won't know until we start operating tomorrow." Not satisfied with that response, but the tone in which it was delivered made it clear to me that this was rather serious and potentially life-altering. At this point, I was not in pain, I was stabilized, and I was taking my first bites of horrible hospital food that was being brought to my room. It was important that I ate because at midnight, I would need to begin my fast before the operation. I was nervous, I was scared, I was spiraling. What would I be like after this operation? Would the operation be successful? What does successful even mean? As the evening continued, I had my first outside visitor, my mom. Upon hearing from Jamie, She had gotten on the first flight down to Pensacola, and I was comforted by her presence, but I was also wrapped with guilt. A young man being given permission to take a trip down the Gulf Shores over spring break was a big deal for me and my mom. And this was not the way I wanted to convey responsibility or my maturity. I did joke with her, however. At least I was responsible enough to get to the hospital, and she did not find that funny. My surgery lasted 4.5 long hours, during which surgeons excavated my broken vertebrae. They plucked out the bone splinters that were lodged in my spinal cord, at least the ones that they could pluck, and they reinstalled a fiberglass cage that they somehow said, yeah, it's just gonna kind of be like it was before. Okay. Finally, a titanium plate was slapped on top of it, lickety split. I am now part robot. Thank the heavens for steady hands and advanced degrees. Now, the story ends with what you see here today, a healthy, mobile human. The 6 months that followed that operation were grueling. I was in a neck brace, I had to leave school for that semester, engage in physical therapy, I had to rebuild my strength and coordination. But what this experience really did afford me, beyond a healthy dose of introspection and a newfound appreciation for the opportunity to live my life on my own terms, was the ability to sit here today and say to all of you that I broke my neck and lived to tell the tale.
All right, two very good stories. We have time for one question for each. So who has a question for Miss McLean? Any questions for Miss McLean? Yep, right there. Shout it out nice and loud.
Why don't you remember, more detail? I feel like your story's a little short.
Or Mr. Sutic is a little long.
Any response why you didn't remember more details?
I do remember it very clearly because of how embarrassing that night was until I realized what was happening. Our stories were supposed to be quite short, so this started very long and I had to keep cutting it down and down and down. But if you want to hear more about it, stop by the art room. I'll tell you all the gory details.
And a question for Mr. Sutic. Yes, sir, I saw your hand shoot up.
Was ChatGPT used?
For the story?
No.
No.
No chat GPT. All right, so if you think Miss McLean is telling the fiction, let's hear it. Clap, cheer. If you think Mr. Sutic is telling the fiction, Mr. Sutic, the audience believes you are telling the fiction. Will the author, the storyteller who told the fiction, please stand up? Oh, shocker. Was any part of your story true, and what was the fiction? Or was the whole thing?
I never had a boyfriend in high school.
Let's hear it for our storytellers. Thank you guys very much. All right, we have another guest who is here to talk to us today. He is a traditionally published children's book author and a cybersecurity expert from the Chicago area. So it shows you that two fields that you may not think necessarily go together, children's books and cybersecurity, can actually be blended. He writes with the aim of bringing hope and possibility to the world. Currently, the author of 4 beloved children's picture books, he has 2 more that will be published soon. And when he's not writing or hanging out with family, you'll probably find him reading, spending time outside in his mini orchard, baking bread, or being a lumberjack. He is a true Renaissance person. Please welcome the multi-talented Malcolm Newsome.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. And hello to the Wildcats. All right, so can you, I'll hang out with you, I guess.
Come on, hang out with me.
All right, so can you also flag me when we have
Yes.
like 5 minutes to
Yes.
go? Okay. All right, so I grew up in Waukegan, and what I am going to endeavor to talk about today is sort of maybe not the particulars of my journey from Waukegan to published author plus, as I call it, but in the spirit of like how I did that, right? So my first book, Dear Star Baby, I know I'm gonna move pretty quickly through these, but my first book, Dear Star Baby, was published in 2023, so just about almost exactly 3 years ago. It came out in April then. Sydney's Big Speech was 24, and I'm the Spirit of Justice, both of these two, and the Daddy-Daughter Dance came out last year. One thing I always love to highlight, especially in a group with other young people, is that I Am the Spirit of Justice, I co-wrote that with a guy by the name of Jamar Tisby. Jamar Tisby and I became best friends in the 5th grade. So we've been best friends since we were 10. And it's one of those stories that I love to tell and kind of serve as a reminder. It's one of those things that, you know, you all out there, you never know what the friendships that you have even now might sort of, grow to be. And so all the dreaming and all the ideas that we had, all that sort of was able to culminate in a project like this together. He is also a New York Times best-selling author, mostly of adult books. So what's the plus? As indicated in my little bio intro, cybersecurity is what I do full-time, and prior to that, I was also a software developer, building web and mobile applications. Spent time as a business owner prior to that, and my first job after college was working in a bank. I became a bank manager at the age of 22, even, for Chase. And so, I appreciate you kind of using the word Renaissance man, because that wasn't something that it didn't occur to me until like later in life when someone used that term for me. I never thought of myself that way. But what did happen is over the course of all these years, people would ask me how, and even still, how? How do you do all these different things? This is where I grew up. Humble home in Waukegan. This is where I went to school. On the left was Lakeshore Catholic Academy. In the middle, I know I'm with the Wildcats, but go Bulldogs, Waukegan. And then NIU for college. I always had a lot of interests. Everything from basketball, which I thought I was going to be in the NBA, to computers, and that's actually how some of the first computers looked when I was coming up. Fishing, which I just loved to do. Photography, writing, these were things that I did just in my spare time as ways to play. And the thing that I have pictured in the middle here is the library, and that is, I show that because that was essentially where I learned that I could teach myself anything I wanted to know. And I didn't recognize it fully as a young person, but as I got into adulthood, I started to realize then sort of the power of words. These are some author friends. Anybody read the book The Crossover? Familiar with that book? Couple out there? So Kwame Alexander wrote The Crossover. He's in this picture with his glasses on the head, blue shirt, down at the bottom left there. So that's Kwame Alexander, a good friend of mine, some other wonderful author friends. And so, yeah, circling back to that question, how did I do this? Now, I'm going to ask for a couple of volunteers, two volunteers. Everybody's bashful. All right, come on up, both of you. All right, join me at center stage, please. I will be kind, I promise. Okay, tell me your name.
I'm Arthur.
Arthur and Toby. All right, nice to meet you both. Thank you for coming up. Okay, give them a round of applause for coming up, for being brave. Yeah, raise the roof. Okay, so in that spirit of how, I love to talk about this, the power of words, and this is try versus will. So we're going to do Arthur, all right? When I say go, what I'm going to have you do is just put your arm out like this, okay? And Toby, oh, I'm sorry. Okay, when you have your arm out, I'm going to have you say, I will try to keep my arm up, I will try to keep my arm up, I will try to keep my arm up. Just repeat that, okay? Toby, while he's doing that, I want you to press on his arm to try to lower it, okay? So you're trying to keep your arm up, you're trying to push his arm down. Easy enough? All right, let's give it a go. Go ahead.
I will try to keep my arm
ahead.
up. I will try to keep my arm up. I will try to keep my arm up. I will try to keep my arm up.
Okay,
I will
thank
try
you.
To keep my arm up.
Thank you. Yep, you can stop. Did anybody notice anything about his arm? What did you observe about his arm? Say it louder. It fell down? Okay. Let's do this same thing again. This time, I want you to say will instead of try. I will keep my arm up. Repeat. Okay, let's go again.
I will
Go.
keep my arm up. I will keep my arm up. I will keep my arm up. I will keep my
All
arm up.
right, thank you. All right, thank you. Give him a round of applause. Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Anybody notice the difference that second time around? What was different the second time around? It was more steady, right?
You had 5.
5. All right. So the difference there between the two, the first one being unstable, the second one being more stable. And all that because of the subtle difference between using words, 2 small words, try versus will. And this is because words create our realities. The way we show up in our world, the way we show up in life, and everything we do revolves around words. And they can be small, simple words like that. And in the time that we have left today, I just really want you to sort of let that marinate in your minds. Because the crux of it, as I see it, is that writing is life. We all are writers in some form or fashion. We text, we send messages, we talk to others, and even if that's not in written form, we're all using words on a day-to-day basis in some form or fashion. But beyond that, what happens is Beyond that, what happens is we're all facing challenges of some sort every day, all day, many times. And so the objective here is to think about when we're confronting challenges or when we're thinking about the lives that we want to have or the lives that we want to lead, the ways that we change how we show up are by the ways that we both find new words and cultivate and use new words. And that's why I love being an author, because when I think about being an author, I'm thinking about the words that I'm sharing in such a way, even though there's fiction, as we were talking about this morning, they have the ability to then create new realities for young and old. And if we think about those books, the books now exist in a form in which we can hold it, we can flip pages, we can smell them, all the real things, all that coming from words that shape that. And so what I wanted to sort of end with here is, when you think about what you want your life to be, what you endeavor, what you hope, what you want to be when you grow up, or even what you want to do now, it's what will you do? Thank you. Time for a question? All right.
I think we have time for maybe one or two questions. Yes. Did any of your friends or family members go to Cristo Rey?
I did have a cousin, at least one cousin that I knew of who went to Cristo Rey. And then that school that I showed pictured was like the precursor building to Cristo Rey.
Other questions? Way in the back. Did you ever develop any games?
I did some game development, but nothing that was ever published.